All right, well, we're running today with our workshops, and I'd like to introduce two workshops today. We've got Ben Laveridge coming up a little bit later, and our first workshop today is the lovely Danielle Teychenne. Danielle is an interactive developer with Deakin University, and the workshop today is Branching Narratives for Teaching and Learning, a Step-by-Step Approach. Welcome, Danielle. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. I'm just really excited to be able to present this really exciting resource that I'm constantly working with. And I'm just excited to share these design approaches with you all. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my desktop. Hopefully this works. We can only hope. I don't usually present with Teams, so please feel free to yell out if anything. Oh dear. Oh, hold on a second. Just a moment here. That's really strange. What happened? Okay, can everyone see that? Because I've got this full screen and I just don't know whether.
We did just see your presentation before, but now we can just see you, Danielle.
Oh no, that's okay. We'll get through this together. I'm sure of it. Share desktop. What about now?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Fantastic. Oh, it's so good to have some support here. Thank you. Love it. Okay, guys. So before I get started, I just wanted to say that you probably will need a pen and paper. If you don't have a pen and paper, I do have a digital template, which I've just put into the chat. Hopefully that worked. Can you guys see that little link?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Awesome. Fantastic. You are my eyes here. I love it. So I'm very much a type of person who likes to share, and there's going to be lots of sharing today. So please feel free to yell out whenever you want to. And if you've got any questions, just feel free to yell them out, because this is a collaborative session. I don't want to be talking at you the whole time. Cool. So choose your own adventure narratives, or choice-based narratives. There are many different terms for them. It allows you to make choices. There are designated junctures within an experience. They originally were probably the earliest version was the Choose Your Own Adventure books. And so you may have used them, but they've influenced games, TV shows, and now education. So this is where it all started. You may have read a Choose Your Own Adventure book when you're a child, or you may have seen them or heard of them. There's quite a bit of research to sort of back up the types of skills that students can build within this. So they allow the readers or the users to take the driver's seat, deciding the direction of the story's plot. And we know that storytelling is really important to Generation Z. They care about seamless experiences and ongoing relationships. They don't care about transactions. They want to be a part of the experience, and they like to discover content for themselves and be immersed in experiences. So really, choice-based narratives or choose your own adventure narratives, whatever you want to call them, they really allow for autonomy, and they allow students to create empathy, and it's all about relating to other characters. So you might be living through an experience, all that wonderful stuff. And so you're probably wondering, well, what has this got to do with virtual reality? And I think that, I mean, if you're going to have a virtual reality experience, you certainly want to be able to create an engaging experience which harnesses people's autonomy and decision-making skills and problem-solving skills. So really, content is king in any format, whatever that format be. And so just to show you an example, has anyone heard of the Chinese social credit system by any chance? This is the part where you're allowed to say things.
Yes. Sorry.
So the Chinese social credit system, if you haven't heard of it, well, actually, do you want to go ahead and tell me about it from what you've heard?
Well, it's Espen who said yes, so I'm going to push him under the bus at this point.
Go for it, Espen.
Well, that's just rude, isn't it? So at least what I've heard is essentially that citizens in China get credits for being a good citizen in the eyes of the Chinese government. And if they're not following the rules of the Chinese government, they are bad citizens and they get taken away certain rights when you hit a certain threshold of points. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there.
That is completely correct. And it's pretty amazing, the complete total control in that country. But so what I did was I was teaching some students about that system because I was teaching a unit on gamification. So this was kind of like a topic about how gamification's gone completely wrong and used for very horrible things. And I created a story in which students were they'd moved to China for an international study period. They'd fallen in love with someone from China who was a student in Australia, and there were all these horrible things that happened, and they lost points and they weren't able to go back, and they weren't able to move around, they weren't able to stay in the country, they weren't able to go back and visit their partner in China, which is pretty horrible. But we had some really great feedback from the students in which I'm going to let you read that for a moment now, but it let them step into the shoes of the character, which was pretty amazing and pretty powerful. So I'm going to move forward, but these slides will be available, and I have put the digital template and the slides into the workshops folder in the files area for the channel. So feel free to go ahead and if you want to jump ahead, and that's totally fine. So moving forward, we're going to use Freytag's pyramid. This is pretty simple. We're going to keep things pretty basic today with our little workshop. This is sort of a 3-part sort of narrative. I mean, Hollywood uses this, or they'll use the hero's journey type of structure. With choice-based narratives, most of the time they're going to follow this type of structure. You may want to use a choice-based narrative for perhaps clinical interviewing or different types of interviewing, which it probably wouldn't follow a narrative structure, but that is totally fine. We're just going to, for the purposes of the workshop, we're just going to use this. Sometimes with choice-based narratives or interactive fiction, it may look a little bit like this. When you get to every juncture, there's a bit of a climax for you because you have to make a decision point as a user. But you know, it's a total, like, we're totally just getting our hands dirty today, so it doesn't really matter what yours is going to look like. I think it's important that you don't judge yourself and you just kind of let yourself be vulnerable in this experience. So like I said before, if you haven't checked out the digital template, or if you don't have a pen and paper, feel free to go ahead and copy that code now. Again, it's in the chat, so I'm just going to keep moving forward because I trust you'll be able to navigate to the chat. I don't think I can see it right now, so you're probably well ahead of me. So it's best to start off with the problem. Now, we can't solve the world's problems, but you may have a pretty generic problem if you're teaching students or if you're working with others and you want to make a bit of a difference. For instance, students, sometimes they struggle quite a bit with teamwork skills, and it's quite hard for students to work in a team and delegate tasks. So what we're going to do is we're going to think of a problem that's going to influence a learning outcome, and the learning outcome is going to be our guiding star. So I'm going to give everyone 1 minute to think of a problem, but I'm going to just double check whether if I can present. And so Simone, hopefully if you're there still, you can
I am, yes.
Oh, thank God.
I'm the disembodied voice on the end of the microphone.
Oh, are you still there? Can everyone still see my screen? hopefully.
Yes, I can see it, and that actually helps because Bill said that it was a little bit too small for him.
Oh, perfect. Oh, we're meeting everyone's needs. I love it. All right, so this little timer's got a 10-second countdown. So I'm going to give everyone 1 minute to think of a problem. It shouldn't be world hunger because I don't think we'll be able to solve that. So, so go ahead. Alrighty, that's 1 minute. Geez, that was quick. Does anyone want to yell out a problem that they've got? Something that's really been niggling on their mind? There are no wrong answers. Total safe space here. I'm not going to judge you if it's something really small.
I'll throw one out, Danielle. It's Bill here. It's invigilating and supervising online exams.
Wow, yeah, that's a massive problem that I'm sure a lot of people at universities across the country and the world are probably experiencing right now. Great problem. Don't know if I can solve it, but
unsolvable problem, didn't you, Bill? Had to start with an unsolvable problem, Bill.
It's solvable. It's solvable, I promise you.
If there's a will, there's a way. Does anyone have another problem? Maybe a little bit smaller?
All right. How about choosing the right blend of tools and activities for courses operating under COVID-19 conditions and risks?
Yeah, that's a good problem. Definitely. Yeah, very relevant. Anyone else want to throw out a problem?
Sheila's also suggested helping students connect with other cohorts.
Ah, lovely. That's a great problem. Perfect. So how the heck is this going to translate into a learning outcome? Well, think about your priorities here. What do you want to achieve? So if you want to help students connect with each other, that's a learning outcome in itself. Students' ability to connect and grow and be vulnerable with each other. That sounds good. So let's have 1 minute to think of a learning outcome. Don't judge yourself. It can be super duper simple. I'm terrible at writing learning outcomes, but it could be, very simple. Feel free to yell out if you get stuck and you need some advice, but 1 minute, pressure's on. Cool. That was 1 minute. Does anyone want to yell out their learning outcome? Doesn't have to be complex or intricate. I only gave you a minute.
Bill put a great one into the chat. Bill, did you want to run through yours?
Sure. It's just as it sits there. One of the goals that we have around the online exams is slowly socializing students to understand what happens with their information privacy, and slowly introducing the choice of flexible online exams so they can make an intelligent and critical choice whether to use that system or not.
Yeah, that's great. My brain's already bubbling away it's jumping ahead to some sticky situations in terms of online privacy and sharing. Does anyone else have a learning outcome they want to share?
Sheila's offered another one in the chat that says students will experience a sense of belonging and enhanced awareness of pathways available via connection with their own and other learning cohorts across the learning journey.
Oh my gosh, that learning outcome bench presses all of my learning outcomes. That's perfect. I love it. I love it. Fantastic. I'm loving everyone sharing right now. Thank you so much, because this experience is made richer by your ideas, and we're going to have some really funny ideas come into this. So you are here in the Freytag's pyramid. Let's start with exposition. Let's start getting our hands dirty, start cooking up some ideas. So what is exposition? Well, every exposition is usually made up of a main character, a setting, and a problem. And if you've read any little taglines of a movie or a short story or a book, you've probably seen an exposition, and it's designed to really hook you in because it's showing you a problem. Most of the time the characters are backed into a situation where like they're up against a rock and a hard place. So let's look at some examples. One famous example, Marty McFly, a 17-year-old high school student, is accidentally sent 30 years into the past in a time-traveling DeLorean invented by his close friend, the maverick scientist, Doc Brown. So you're probably already asking, well, what's Marty McFly going to do? Why is he spending his time with an elderly scientist? He's a 17-year-old child. Another one, I've created this one. You're an international business student at Deakin University. You've left your assignment to the last minute. Out of desperation, you consider buying an assignment from an essay mill. Oh, what's the main character going to do? That sounds terrible. You're a third-year nursing student at Deakin University. On your first day of placement, you accidentally give an elderly patient incorrect medication. Again, I'm stating the main character, the problem, the setting, the rock against the hard wall. Another one, you're a final year environmental student at Deakin University. You've been working on a group assignment for 4 weeks now, and you've had no contact from one of your members. The assignment is worth 80% of your unit grade, and it's due in 1 week. Oh, stakes are very high in this situation. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to think of a main character, a setting, and a problem. And it's got to be related to your learning outcome and the problem that you said before. So I know this might be a little bit challenging, but feel free to yell out. And I've got templated scenarios down the bottom here. And I've also uploaded them to the backend space in the folder. So again, feel free to yell out if you're completely confused. I'm here to help. I'm just going to be sipping my tea and enjoying myself here. Oh my gosh, that was a perfect fade out of the music, whoever's doing that. I love it. Okay, so how did everyone go? Does anyone want to share their exposition with me or their scenario?
Sheila's thrown one in, of course. Sadie is a mature age student studying online and doesn't know how to reach out within her course, program, or discipline to connect with those she'll study with and those that have progressed to PG studies. She feels isolated.
Oh my gosh, what is she going to do? Oh my gosh, poor Sadie. I'm already feeling empathy for her, and that's a completely common problem, common scenario. Love it. Anyone else?
Bill's got one. You are a second-year engineering student at USQ and you are on site at a construction job and cannot return to campus for your final exam. You have heard about online exam options but don't know how it works. There's pretty good internet connectivity on the site and you do have a laptop with a camera and mic headset you use to Zoom with your family. Will the online exam option be a good choice for you?
Whoa, maybe. I want to find out. Anyone else? Remember, it doesn't have to be fully formed. It can be something really simple. No judgment here. We're all learners. We're all here to learn. Even yell out if you need to.
I don't have any other ones in the chat, but if anybody would like to take the mic.
Stephen's a crusty academic, the archetypical grumpy old man who's been teaching his course for quite a long time at his university. He has a mixed cohort of students, some of whom are really keen to be on campus and keep being part of the course face-to-face. A bunch of others, for various reasons, including housing, etc., find themselves somewhere else. Plus, he's got a whole bunch of international students who can't get into the country at the moment, and he wants to try and teach them.
This isn't autobiographical, is it?
No, it's stereotypical of the job at the moment, unfortunately.
Yes, absolutely. If you can solve that problem, I'd love to know. I'm excited to see where that narrative goes. I've got myself logged into the chat as well, so I can see some other really great scenarios here. You're a dance student, you're finding isolation, lack of physical engagement with your craft is affecting your mental health. You're a music student studying voice. COVID has interrupted your on-campus study. How will you continue developing your vocal technique in this scenario? Far out. These are very relevant scenarios or expositions, guys. Well done. Oh, Love it. All right, before we get stuck into it, let's get cooking on our character development. So this is going to be sort of the main anchor point for our story, because remember, if we're writing a branching narrative, students are going to live through this main character. Now, several different types of, there's different types of designs for branching narratives. You can have perhaps a narrative that follows 3 different perspectives of a student, but let's keep things nice and simple for the workshop today, and we can make things complex later, because you can always tweet at me and email me later. So let's look at motivations, internal and external. What I've decided to do is I've decided to go with my main character. His name is Lee, so I've named him. This is one I've pre-baked earlier. He's in a bit of a sticky situation. He's thinking about buying an essay from an essay mill. Let's take a little journey inside of Lee. Let's look at his internal and external motivations. So internally, his parents are making financial sacrifices because he's an international student. He's feeling pretty guilty. He doesn't want to disappoint his parents. So he's got, their approval. It's hanging on the line. That's a stake, and we'll explore that later. Externally, his teacher thinks he would be a great artist and encourages him to change degrees because he's studying business. And he's got a girlfriend who's also an international student, and she's from Hong Kong. So that could possibly create some conflict later on because he's from China. Moving forward, a saying here, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And that's completely true. And I'm sure you've seen several movies and TV shows, and perhaps even read books where the main character starts off with some really great intentions, but they're going to get themselves into some pretty sticky places. My film teacher always told me conflict always pushes the narrative forward. So you can't have a narrative without conflict. So I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes to think of one internal motivation and one external motivation. So what's driving your character? What's motivating them? So feel free to yell out if that doesn't make any sense whatsoever and you've got no idea. I'm here to help. So, and I'll be on the chat because I've got 2 laptops running now. Again, perfect fading out with the music. Love it. Was that you, Aspen? Okay, so what have we got here, guys? What's driving your character? What are their goals? What do they want to achieve? Anyone want to share?
Danielle, it's Sheila here. I'm thinking about poor old Sadie, and I'm thinking her internal motivation is around sense of pride, and her external is really about getting a better job.
Oh, good for Sadie. I'm rooting for her. Hope everything works out for her. You may get emotionally connected to your character at the end of this, so that might be a little byproduct. Does anyone else want to share their motivations from their character? Okay, well, I'll give you a cheat. Oh, Nigel's got something here. I think Sheila and myself have both experienced similar student cohorts. Yes. Well, I'll give you a cheat motivation. Internally, a lot of students probably just want to finish their degree. Externally, perhaps maybe something or someone wants them to finish their degree. You never know. It's time to get inside the mind of the student. Let's move forward. What is eating your student and or your character, whoever your character is? It doesn't have to be a student. It can be anyone. It can be someone living on Mars who accidentally got stuck there. Oh, wait, that's already a movie and a book. That's okay. Developing stakes. So let's have a look at some pre-baked ones. Lee is in a sticky situation. He likes to paint, but his parents don't believe in his abilities. He's in a business degree, but he's struggling to understand the concepts. He's not really liking his study area, but he was forced to undertake his degree by his parents. And he wrote his first assignment in one night, but received a fail grade. So now he's on to the second assignment, but his student visa is at stake if he fails this unit. Oh my God, Poor Lee. Oh God. Not great. Not great for Lee. Let's do 2 stakes, guys. So really, again, what's on the line here for your character? What's at stake? What could they lose? Or potentially on the flip side, what could they possibly gain from this experience? Alrighty, what is on the line for your character? And I want to know. I'm emotionally involved now. Anyone want to yell out?
All right, I'll go back to poor Sadie. So I guess what Sadie's got to lose, really, because she's a mature age student, is really wasted time and money. She's given up a few things to undertake this, particularly around the family and other types of jobs she could have been taking up. But what she can gain is a better way to just support her family and better jobs in the future.
So yeah, so it's got two sides to that same coin. Wow. Okay, I'm very connected to Sadie now. Oh, look, we've got one from Leah here. Charlie's going to keep his scholarship. If he continues with his degree, changing will be positive and take him where he wants to go, though. Oh, what's Charlie going to do? Another way. In one way, this could be a blessing in disguise for Lee. I had a good friend who entered medical school in Sydney, realised it was quickly a wrong choice, but finished only to resign from his first hospital job within 6 months and retrain to do something else that's relevant. Wow. Life certainly is not linear, that's for sure. Anyone else want to yell out or say something on the chat?
I'll just mention Samantha's problem. She's the engineering student out on the work site. The same day of the exam, there's a big safety and environmental impact assessment, which is her area of specialty that she's training in. She just can't miss it and let her team down. The other side, though, is that she's an Indigenous woman, and she knows that recordings can offend if something were to happen to her in the future, so needs to know how the recordings are stored, archived, or deleted. So she's in a bit of a conundrum about this, but she needs some information.
Wow, that's something I've never thought of. That's incredibly relevant to the world right now, that's for sure. Let's keep moving forward. So I think from what you've probably already come up with, we've already got the seeds of conflict now. And like I said before, narrative is always progressed with conflict. So let's make some omelets with these eggs. So we are here in the rising action part of the pyramid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of pre-baked conflictual actions or narrative possibilities, as I like to call them. So Lee, he could buy an assignment from an essay mill with his credit card and photo ID. A lot of essay mills take photo ID. He could pay a friend to write the assignment for him. He could ask for an extension and make an appointment with a language and learning advisor. Or he could bribe his unit chair to give him a pass for the unit. Yikes. Couple of options there. Let's look at the, before we get our hands dirty, let's look at decision points just briefly. So there are different types of decisions one could take in life. Good decisions, morally sound, probably going to have some good consequences. Poor decision, probably going to have some bad consequences, or a neutral decision. We don't know if this is going to be a good choice or not just yet. Life is complex. You might make a good decision and it's going to lead you to a really horrible outcome because that's life, and life is non-linear. You're probably going to see also the difference between an action and a consequence. So when I got started with this a long time ago, I noticed myself writing a lot of consequences into the sticky note area. And then I was like, wait, I'm confused now. And so you might get yourself a little bit confused. There's definitely a difference between actions and consequences. It'll become clearer to you as you start writing. So just don't judge yourself. But yell out if you've got any problems. So let's think of 3 narrative possibilities. Where could your character go? What are they going to do? How are they going to get themselves out of the sticky situation? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes for 3 narrative possibilities. Alrighty, well done, guys. So, does anybody want to share a narrative possibility? I want to hear some conflict here. Life is not easy. Don't be shy, guys.
Hi, Danielle. Sheila here. I'm thinking it's not got too much conflict, but looking at the good, I'm thinking that poor Sadie can check with the convener and check the uni websites, and the consequence would be that she hooks into the system and can share with the rest of the cohort, enhancing her connections to start with. A bad would be to go straight to social media. A consequence of that might be that her motivation is lowered straight away because it's not direct communication. And the neutral would be actually just to try and chat with the other students in her cohort and go from there. And the consequence would be enhancing immediate connection, and they can learn what's available together.
Awesome. I'm loving all these possibilities, and I'm curious when you eventually create this. I'm curious as to what path the user is going to take, because I think a lot of people would just jump straight on social media.
I know.
Does anyone else want to share any narrative possibilities they've come up with?
Yeah. Lee has got some nice one there in the chat as well. Lee?
What have we got here?
I've found my microphone.
Yay!
Hi, Danielle. Charlie could look at options to become a trainee in the area that he's interested in. So the consequence of that is that he would be able to keep doing something that he's interested in. He could reduce his study load and find some external work to try and replace his scholarship money. So he'd still be able to do something that he's interested in. He just wouldn't be able to do it quite as fast. Or I guess the bad option, so to speak, is he could throw up his hands and quit studying in frustration at life.
I mean, certainly, yep. I'm loving all of these, and I'll explore that bad option you've just explained just then, because we might use that as a loop back, but I'll explain loop backs later. But yeah. We'll keep moving forward, guys. This is really great. I'm loving all the sharing. I'm just kind of making myself aware of time here. So you need to pick a rising action that sparks joy. So it doesn't matter if it's if you've got three ideas and they're all sparking joy, just pick one. It doesn't mean that we're throwing away our ideas here. We're just building a branch here. So we're going to go ahead and pick one that sparks joy. I've chosen buy an assignment from an essay mill with your credit card and photo ID. It seems like a pretty bad choice, but that's life. Maybe sometimes life is only going to present you with a couple of bad choices. So in the interest of time, let's create 2 more narrative possibilities for our character, branching off of the idea that's sparking the most amount of joy for you. And feel free to yell out if I've totally confused you.
And we've got 10 minutes to go, Danielle.
This is going to be a speed read then. Alrighty, I think that was 2 minutes. Awesome. So we're going to keep moving forward. And in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step you through the process just briefly, and then what you can do is go ahead and utilize the templates that are provided and further create your story. But you've got the groundwork, you've got your character, your stakes, we've got some early beginnings of conflict, you've got your scenario. So, I mean, your setting. So things are going to heat up for sure. And this thing you'll find it's going to write itself, really. So for Lee, where are things going? He's decided to buy an essay from an essay mill. Here are a couple of pre-baked narrative possibilities. He could buy the essay. He could get caught for contract cheating. He'd have to attend integrity meeting. He could receive a credit for the assignment, but the essay mill decides to blackmail him. The essay mill decides to deliver the assignment 5 days too late. He's not able to submit the assignment, or the essay mill could take his money but not send an essay, which these are all very realistic narrative possibilities, and they've happened to students, unfortunately. So it's all about picking which rising actions sparking joy. So we're creating branches of our narrative. So we're working on that one branch here. So I've decided Lee's going to receive a credit for his assignment, but the essay mill is going to blackmail him. And then this is sort of when you're going to get to a climax, like a conflicting climax. So we've got all of our horrible things that are happening to our character, and this is really where the narrative is going to come to a head. This is where all of the loose ends are going to be sort of starting to be tied up. So right at the top of that pyramid. So here are some climax examples. He could refuse to pay the essay mill, hoping that they won't contact his unit chair. He could pay the essay mill. He could approach the student body and ask for a legal representative to help him out, or he could confess to his unit chair and hope for the best. A couple of different actions here, ranging from good to neutral to bad. And again, you'll follow this template in your own time, choosing which one sparks the most joy. Lee's going to refuse to pay the essay mill. And now we're on the other side of the pyramid. So we need to really start wrapping up the narrative, start tying all the loose ends together. So what's Lee going to do? He's going to refuse to pay the essay mill. Then here's a couple of falling actions that I've created. So again, the conflict is wrapping up. It's not heating up anymore. Things have to come to a conclusion at some point, unfortunately for the character. So he could contact the unit chair, or he could ignore the email that the essay mill has sent him. He could attend a counselling session that his unit chair has provided for him. So, or he could decide to discontinue his studies. Again, there's a little bit of a difference between, I've got some actions interweaved with some consequences there. You'll probably notice the difference as you start writing along. So again, these are falling actions. Sorry, did you want to jump in there?
I was just going to say there's 5 minutes to go.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. So we'll come to a resolution at some point following that Freytag pyramid. Apologies, guys. I've mismanaged my time a little bit here. But what Lee's going to do is he's deciding to attend a counselling session. So he's decided to take a good decision after all of this conflict. And his counsellor reassures him, the university's going to take care of it. His parents won't be notified because he's an adult. So he can, be rest assured there. But he receives a phone call from ANZ asking to make repayments on a new credit card. So someone's actually created a credit card with his ID that he provided to the essay mill. It's pretty horrible. He's had his identity stolen. So we've come to a bit of a neutral point for Lee. But because if you're writing it on sticky notes, you can always recycle your ideas. We talked about choice combinations before, good, bad, neutral. Sometimes you're going to get into a dead end for your character. Things are going to reach a pretty horrible point where only bad options are available, but that's life. Sometimes life is pretty sticky. Just briefly, tree structures. So once you start creating your narrative, you might like to use a very easy tool like Twine or perhaps H5P, or maybe you'd like to use a e-learning program like Articulate Storyline. I use the free open source types of tools because I don't like to get bogged down with licensing. But you can easily start to bloat out your narrative if you start following all the branches. What's a really great approach is a pruned tree approach, where you kind of want to move horizontal between choices. So really recycling your ideas is going to help you keep things quite neat and lean. A bottlenecking tree is just, students will pretty easily see that a lot of their choices are going to hit the same point, and then they're going to get really bored and realize that none of what they're doing is actually making a difference. So a pruned tree is a really great approach. You might want to give pseudo autonomy. You can see here with the partial bottlenecking tree, there is this loop back right here. So you might decide to quit and give up. Oh, you can't quit and give up because X, Y, Z. Back to the choices here. Endings. You might end in a good place, a bad place, or a neutral place. So neutral might be you've made some good decisions along the way. They're not great. Not all of them are great, but you've met a reasonably desirable sort of conclusion. But it's always really great to know that it's not a really good approach to design a narrative with all good choices leading to a good consequence, because again, students are going to catch on. They're pretty smart. In terms of branching tools, again, I said I really recommend Twine. It's totally free. H5P's got a branching scenario tool that's coming soon. It's in beta at the moment. Any questions? I do apologize that I've been a little bit mismanaged with my time, but please utilize the template. Please tweet at me, send me emails. All those resources are there for you to keep practicing. I'm still learning how to write branching narratives. It's a never-ending process. You'll get better at it. Don't judge yourself. Any questions at all? I'm seeing some great ideas in the chat here, which is awesome.
Danielle, I'm just sort of wondering, it's Bill here. I'm wondering if you, I know you've mentioned Storyline, Articulate, and other tools and that. Do you think there'd be any way to sort of use this in sort of 360-degree videos?
Oh, that's such a great question. Oh my gosh. I know the H5P tool has that 360 virtual tour right now, and you would certainly be able to use it there, but that's just for images only. There's probably a tool that exists out there. I know that H5P is looking at integrating 360 video inside of that 360 virtual tour object, but I think they're still developing that at the moment. Yeah. I think that might be a question that I go track down and then tweet out. Really good question, though.
Yeah, we're sort of finding, you know, like, how do we really use 360? And a lot of it is a bit of that sort of I spy with my little eye or go find kind of, you know, look through the environment. And I can imagine maybe, you know, scenarios where they have to look around and find clues and things to help solve their challenges.
I can see now Hugh and Sheila have popped up. Hugh said that we made a tool a couple of years back called Blurred Minds. Made it in Unity. Fantastic. Sheila said that H5P branching scenario can do this. Oh, okay, that's fair. Yeah, the H5P branching scenario would be able to host 360 content, but I'm unsure if that tool would be able to insert hotspots. That's certainly something to look into. The branching tool, the H5P branching tool hasn't come a very long way since that conference at the end of, I think it was the end of 2018, or the H5P conference in Melbourne, which is unfortunate, but hopefully they'll get there.
Sure. And thank you so much, Danielle, for the great workshop. I think we can all agree that it's been fantastic. I'd ask you all to open your mic and give Danielle a little round of applause there, because it's been brilliant. Thank you.